Jolt, electrify, transplant those afterburners. That line is literally just this character in a nutshell. He stood around when Optimus Prime's corpse was dropped on the ground, and then he transplanted those afterburners from, Jetfire and Optimus. That is Jolt in a nutshell from Revenge of the Fallen. However, he has become a fan favorite simply because he is blue and he's cool and he's got electric powers. And also, he's just a niche character that got no screen time, and because of that, a lot of people love him. And also, his old figure from 2009 is kind of cool. A lot of people really like it, myself included. I always really liked a lot of the the translucent plastic. I always thought that kind of added to the whole electrical look. I liked the angular head. I liked the all the flaring clear parts and just the general look of him. But it turns out he didn't really look like that in the movie at all. Now did he? Yes, all this time later, we have a studio series Jolt. And this guy is very hilariously pretty hard to come by. Hasbro kind of just forgot to post pre-orders in the US on Hasbro Pulse, and I missed it when it was in stock. I didn't get the Amazon orders because the Amazon didn't put it up, and I don't really order from a lot of other places. I actually found them at Target. So hooray for actually finding Transformers in retail, because Hasbro actually manages to decently distribute Transformers. Not, as good as they could, but honestly, I feel like, with how everything is in the world right now, I'm pretty surprised that Transformers gets as much out as they do still. I still find most of the new figures at retail, at least at some point. But yeah, man, Jolt. Pretty nobody character, but he's pretty cool. And don't tell me, oh, he did cool stuff in the comics. As far as I know, he got killed in the comics between Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon. So who even cares about the comics? Who even reads, right? who reads? Reading's for losers. But yeah, here we have Jolt and a Jolt. Honestly, the original figure, I've always liked it, but it's always been a little finicky. And you'll see why. It's not really very solid. But I have to say, as someone who doesn't really get a lot of the Studio Series Autobots, because I just find them finicky and tiny, yes, he is small. He is a small boy. But, despite that, he's pretty solid. And he's pretty well put together. And honestly, he's probably one of my favorite Studio Series Autobots. I mean, I don't have all of them. I didn't get all of them because I'm not a fan of the super tiny, style that they go for. I like the Decepticons still being the normal deluxe size. But man, I had to get Jolt because it's Jolt. And I knew you guys would love to see this video, and me personally, I wanted it. So yeah, man, let's get on into it. You can see the size difference. You can definitely see the differences in the designs here. I always liked the design of old Jolt's head. I always thought that the original Revenge of the Fallen head looked pretty cool. Almost looked like it had a faceplate or something. Almost looked like it had cute little cheeks, big old buggy eyes. It just looked cute yet also cool. And also had some Optimus Prime looking crests on it. Turns out in the actual movie, it didn't look like that much at all. If we'll get back in focus, you can see he actually has a defined nose. He has actual eyes. He actually has a lip. He actually has lips right there. But he does have some of the crests still. He still has a little bit of the spikes on the back of the head. I feel like this head should have had more blue on it. Maybe in the movie it was a little bit more blue, but this figure opted for being more gray to differentiate it from the body. And honestly, that looks good too. That's just a personal opinion of mine. But yeah, it's pretty shocking how, and no pun intended by the way, how different the Studio Series Jolt, the movie-accurate version, looks from the original figure. Because this original figure really emphasized, oh yeah, it's, everything's sticking out, blah, blah, blah. And I may not have this guy correct, honestly. Because so much of this guy just kind of sticks. So let's just get into it. I think you guys have seen them side by side enough. Let's talk about this old Jolt, because he's a little special. I love him. He's a cool figure. He looks cool. But man, messing with him. His legs are pretty solid. He's got some pretty solid legs going on. And I do understand that, some people have his toes like that. Honestly, I think that looks pretty good, too. For some reason, I always like it like that. That's just me. But yeah, you can actually, pivot the toes a little bit. Get some good joints out of the knees. You can actually see, the wheels painted into the thigh. I think that looks neat. But yeah, you can start to see the problem. So yeah, his back does not properly peg in to his torso. So, like, whenever you move the arms, it just kind of flops around unless you're holding them like this. And even then, if you're holding them like this, you have all of these untabbed in panels. These don't tab in, this doesn't tab in, and these especially that are on both hinges and ball joints, especially the ball joints, they get loose over time, like this one, are not tabbed in. So essentially what you're left with is a hot mess on the back where you're basically just left to, you know, give it your best shot. And I mean, you have the shoulders, you can have those down if you want. You can kind of give him an armored arm look, which looks kind of cool, because he has basically the entire top of his car on his arms. But yeah, it's definitely kind of awkward. And then he has this big old panel sticking out from behind his head that really, really limits his head motion. Like, you can hardly move his head. It's a cool looking head, but you can hardly move it. Like, that's literally the extent of the motion. You can hardly get it side to side. But he does have like hinges and ball joints at the shoulders. Kind of get some wavy look to him. He's got the standard joints everywhere else. I do really like how they did his transplanters of the afterburners, how they kind of flip out. I dig that. I think that's cool. Kind of keeps it all self-contained, and that's honestly something that I will give to this figure over the new one. I kind of like how those flip out instead. He does have a Mecha Live gimmick, like a lot of these figures did. He's got a clear torso, and if you turn the waist, you can see that there's gears inside that move. There's like a little bit of gapping, so you can see it a little bit better. But yeah, you can kind of see it through the torso. Pretty underwhelming, because you can hardly see it in a lot of lighting. But yeah, it's a pretty... I mean, one test I do is the ham hands test, where you just kind of ham hand it, and then you can see the state that it's in. Largely, it's that it doesn't tab in. That's a big problem. But other than that, man, it's a cool figure. I'm sorry if I didn't have any of the back kibble properly set, but it doesn't have any tabs, and I just kind of have it in a way where it's not going to just go flying everywhere. I had to do what I had to do. Yeah, it's a fun figure, man. I dig the look. This Jolt will always have a place in my collection. He's a fun figure, man, and I definitely have some sentimental value over him. So yeah, there's that one. And now let's look at the new one. So Jolt, have you transplanted those afterburners yet? Was I supposed to? Oh, Jolt, you're supposed to transplant. Anyways, but yeah, this figure, he does have one kind of issue when it comes to like things not tabbing in. It's these panels right here. They don't tab in. But they're kind of sticking distinctly out and away from everything else. So it's kind of good. Maybe you're wondering, oh, what's going on here? This is a transformation hinge. It is a little loose for my liking, but honestly, I don't consider this something that's loosey-goosey because this genuinely gives him an ab crunch. Jolt has an ab crunch. Like that, I feel, is a valid point of articulation that you can attribute to the figure. I would say he has an ab crunch. I would genuinely add that to the list of articulation he has. Speaking of which, let's just get into it. So you can't actually move his head. Not entirely, because it still gets caught, because it's still a movie design, so it has things that get caught. But you can actually move it now. You can move it up, you can move it down. His shoulders are on hinges and ball joints like the old one, but you get a nice bit of range out of that. He's got single elbows that actually bend pretty far. He's got in and out of the wrist. And he has a thumb hinge, because his thumb pegs in, so you can actually give him doing a little thumbs up there if you want. So yeah, that's pretty neat. And then his waist, he's got an ab crunch, and you can rotate the waist. I would say rotate the waist when you do the crunch and then bring it back down, because he does have like these leg panels that kind of get in the way. And he still has like the kind of like the door wings. I do have to say, I do like how the back comes together. Sure, he still does have a big chunk of the car on his back. Like that is a car chunk. But it looks decently good, and I mean, it gives him a pretty distinct look. These panels I'm a little iffy on, but they are kind of more movie accurate, having them on the thigh there. And you can kind of move those out of the way a little bit, get them forward, get them in and out. Doesn't really have a thigh swivel from what I can tell, which is kind of weird. I don't think he has one. I'm trying to decipher. Maybe he does, and I actually don't think so. I think they kind of realized with how his thighs are, that's just not going to work out. But he does have a knee joint, and he does have an ankle joint, and he actually does have a swivel here to kind of give you a sort of like an ankle pivot, sort of like a thigh swivel in a way. But it's a little awkward. But hey, it's a point of articulation I can give him. I do like how the wheels go on the bottom of the feet, especially since there's figures like this where you can see he's supposed to have the wheels in the legs, but it's just not physically possible. So then instead they actually hid the wheels on those panels and on the bottom of the feet. So I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. Oh, does he have like the hubcaps? Almost looks like he has the hubcaps on his arms right there. That was a sneeze. But anyways, yeah, pretty fun figure, man. Now, he does come with the electrifiers to transplant those afterburners. Unfortunately, you have to pop the thumbs off. I do not like this, because I can see, especially kids that want this, these thumbs are going to be gone, man. I can't find a place to really store them decently. I mean, I can't. I mean, there's no nice pegs to just peg them in again somewhere else. That's definitely a disappointment. I wish there would have just been like a hole where I could just peg them in, but there really isn't. I can't find one. So the thumbs just have to stay off, but you can replace them with these, which are very nice and very long, and they're pretty good. I think these definitely serve their purpose. You can swivel them on the attachment point, and you can actually flip the hinge in and out. So yeah, you can actually properly have Jolt transplant those afterburners. Like, it's not just like these super tiny things. You can seriously have this figure in between your Optimus and your Jetfire, and it actually looks pretty decent. Like, that's pretty cool, man. Like, I think that looks really good. This is a really fun figure, man. I'm actually pretty pleased with it. I think it's actually a lot better than I expected. It really is. So, yeah, that's pretty much the Studio Series one. So let's get these off, get his thumbs back in, because now it is time to transform these boys, and I'm personally pretty excited. It's been a hot minute since I've transformed the old one, so let's see how this goes. As far as I remember, he's actually pretty easy. Very panel heavy, obviously. I mean, did you see his back? Do you see what's going on here? It's basically all panels. This guy's made of panels. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm almost already there. Yeah, he's got things. They hinge. They do the joints. Oop! Popped his foot off. It's getting a little carried away there. Oh, man. That joint was like stuck and then it pinched me. Okay. So yeah, be careful. If you haven't really transformed your Jolt in like forever, yeah, maybe make sure he doesn't pinch you. Yeah, let's get his arms in. And you can see, man, he's already almost there. Pretty easy transformation, honestly. Still has a lot of that clear plastic, which honestly I'm still a fan of. I think it looks pretty cool on this guy. Get those panels in the side. Get that panel in the side. And then you got to deal with all the things that panel-y transformers have, where the panels are like, oh, I don't want to do my stuff anymore. And you're like, come on, dude, just freaking tab in, please. And it's like, no, I'm going to get out of line. And you're like, come on, man, please. I want it together. And they're like, oh, jeez, you really got to make this super hard for me, don't you? And I'm like, man, all you got to do is go in the proper spot. Oh, and he's like, oh, man, I'm going to untap somewhere else. And I'm like, dude, just please. And it's like, oh, man, if you just, like, maybe calm down and give me a minute, maybe you'll do it. And I'm like, dude, I'm filming a video. I don't have time. And then he's like, fine. Yep, there you go. There is Jolt in his, what is it, a Volt? I don't know the car. It's a Chevy Volt. That's what it is. Thank you for literally telling me on the actual vehicle. I appreciate that. But you can see there's a lot of hollow bits. I'm not going to do that ever again. Yeah, there's some hollow bits in there. And definitely has a lot of the clear plastic you can see through. Yeah, though, rolls good. It's a nice car, man. I actually really like this. It's a nice car, man. I mean, that's what Transformers are. They're carmen. But let's transform the Studio Series. This one's actually pretty fun. I've only done it a couple times, so hopefully I remember. But it actually has a lot going on. So one thing, definitely a lot more going on than the other one. So the car, a lot of it is on his back. And when I say a lot of it, I mean a lot of it. Yeah, I don't know if you're picking up on this quite yet, but a lot of the car is on his back. I mean a lot of the car. So there's that. And basically what we do after this, we sort of like configure everything else to sort of like fit in, kind of like bend the knees, and then get these going. And then, oh man, oh geez. his hands like flip in, and then these panels do, geez. Oh man, I'm trying to remember how the arms go. I think I'm getting it. Yeah, there we go. I do like how the arms form the back bumper this time. It's so interesting how different this guy is from the other Jolt. It really is interesting. Like, almost everything is different. Now, granted, a lot of the car is still on his back, sure. But other than that, oh my gosh, where am I going wrong? There goes a thumb. Yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind with how those thumbs pop off. They might come off during transformations, so keep that in mind. You might just want to leave them off entirely. I mean, if you're okay with him looking a little incomplete with his hands. I mean, he is an alien robot after all. What's the difference between having 3 hands and, or 3 fingers and 2 fingers? I would know, and that's gonna bug me enough to not want to do it. Jeez, how dare you propose something that stupid? Whatever, dude. You do you, man. There we go. So yeah, we've got the arms all together. You can see he does have a little bit of the finickiness of Studio Series Autobots. Like, he is a small figure, right? I mean, did you see him? He's pretty tiny. But he's still pretty fun. I just feel like these Studio Series Autobots, for people with big old hands like mine, they're a bit of a struggle. They kind of are the reason why Revenge of the Fallen was like super complex, and then they had to simplify it for Dark of the Moon. Because, man, these Studio Series Autobots, some of them are really good, right? Like, this Jolt is pretty good. But now you just got to worry about getting everything lined up. And with your big old hands, all this plastic clashing, it can get kind of irritating. Especially when you're trying to film a video under these big old lamps. And you're just trying to move on with your life. You know? You're just trying to move on. You're like, yeah, I just want to make this video to entertain the masses, and then I want to move on with my life. So we pretty much have it there, I say as I untab something. Ah, geez. Okay, so we pretty much have it there. The last step is to just put the top on. And past couple times I've done this, it is one of those where it's like there's so many different places where it connects, and it's just a hassle. So hopefully this time it'll be a little easier because I was a little more prepared. Because I've done it a couple times already. Okay. Oh, the front came untabbed. That's always nice. Oh, the front came detached. That's even better. Oh, the front has fallen on the floor. That's actually the best outcome. Ah, geez. Okay. So let's get that back in. I hope. If this can easily go back in, that would be very beneficial for this experience. Well, that took some wrestling, and we still don't have it fully tabbed. But I think we pretty much got it. We got it to my satisfaction. Whew. So yeah, there we go. There is Studio Series Jolt in his Chevy Volt alt mode. And yeah, how does this one roll? Horribly. It's one of the wheels isn't even going. It's more skidding than rolling because it does have a lot of undercarriage. Not a good roller. Definitely gets beat by the old one. But you can see the size difference. Here, let's actually do it in the proper sides. Yeah, the Studio Series is definitely smaller. Pretty similar, though, when it comes to like the clear plastic and all that. Then again, a lot of this ends up on his back. You can actually kind of see his head poking out there. That's funny. But yeah, man, it's kind of funny. I was saying how the Revenge of the Fallen figures were more difficult, even though this Revenge of the Fallen Jolt was way easier than the Studio Series. And I've transformed this guy very recently. Like, I've transformed him multiple times over the past few days. This guy I haven't transformed in probably like 5 years. So, yeah, definitely shows you that the new one is more complicated. You can tab these into the side. There's slots on the side. You can tab those in, and they look absolutely horrible. Please don't do it. But yeah, man, it's I mean, when it comes to Jolt, the Studio Series is more accurate. It has a more solid robot mode, but it does suffer from that Studio Series tiny Autobot syndrome of kind of having a more finicky transformation and not being the most fun. Like, it's still fun, right? This was still a fun figure, but ooh, man, sometimes those transformations, man, they're more. Like, whenever I just have to, like, it took me like a whole minute to wrestle that piece back on. You know, that's not fun, man. It's not fun when stuff comes off because things just don't want to connect. and then you have to wrestle to get it back on. But I do have to say, the Studio Series is really nice. If I would only pick one, I would definitely go with the Studio Series. I think it's pretty nice. But I do have a soft spot for this one. And another thing, too, you can, I think if I remember correctly, or maybe it goes the other way, you can actually, like, open the hood, if I'm not mistaken. It doesn't, like, truly accurately do it. But I think, like I said, if I'm not mistaken, is there a way I can even do it, though? Oh my gosh. Watch me just be talking out my butt. I was pretty sure that there was a way to open the hood. Sort of. Yeah, sorta. It doesn't look that good, but I guess you can sort of pop the hood. Yeah, that's awful. Forget I even said that. But yeah, guys, there we go. The old one's better because they can actually roll. Nah, I think both of them are really good. The old one definitely has its weirdness and its issues, and the new one has its, modern, tiny Studio Series Autobot issues. So, pick which one you prefer, man. I personally pick the Studio Series, but let me know in the comments down below which one you like. Alrighty, guys, there we go. There is Studio Series Jolt compared to the original Revenge of the Fallen 2009 Jolt, in a nutshell. Hope you guys enjoyed. Special thanks to the patrons of Patreon. You guys rock. Thank you all so much for the continued support. I really appreciate it. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.